feel of one level of
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news.
We are one Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News,
Welcome to Core
a
TV News.
24-hour news station.
Thank you for joining us again on the show. This Friday, we're discussing Nigerian politics, defection, and the justice for power. You know, in those days, young children used to say, you ask them, what do you want to become? They say, I want to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. Today, the dreams and ambitions have changed. It's either I want to become a governor, a local government chairman, a senator, or a president. Our guest on the show earlier said, politics shouldn't be a career, should be service to humankind. I'm joined now by Ufi Uzono. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you very much, Ufi, for finding time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Tony Akoni, a public affairs analyst. Good to have you join us today on Core Digest. Let me start with you, Barrister. The national conference, the defunct national conference, of course, resolved that from their own adoption, that elected office holders will now not have the privilege of changing parties while they are still in office. Do you think that will impact positively on this ideology thing that we keep talking about as regards political parties?
I wouldn't think it will do any much good to Nigerian politics. The main problem of Nigerian politics has to do with the individuals playing it, the citizens voting in the politicians, and a whole lot. It has got nothing to do with you making law to say, don't move from party A to party B, as the case may be, because the main problem is psychological. People are out there to make money. People are out there to make a statement. People are out there to showcase what they've got to offer. Now, if you make a law that says, don't jump from party A to party B, you'll be creating a circumstance that the Nigerian is not yet used to. You remember when the president was to go for the 2011 election, most people in Lagos said that they are not voting for the party, they were voting for the individual.
Okay.
So until you have a political education that will liberate the minds of the people for them to say, this is what we're expecting politicians to do, these are the yardsticks, these are the modicum of standard that we're expecting of you, you will never have anything out of it legally, at least from what the confirmed members were able to do. Now, but if you allow the system itself to evolve, it will come to a point when Nigerians will get fed up of the system and they'll say, I think we need a better deal than what we have now. And when you begin to have such things coming up, then you have a new crop of politicians who will now stand for ideology. Now, when that new politicians come, then you can now codify it. You can now put it in the corpus of our law and say, look, we want this and this and this to be. These are the parameters. But if you have not allowed the process, the socialization, political socialization process to snowball to a point where people are now aware that these are the landmarks, these are things we expect of politicians, you are not going to achieve anything with any law.
Okay. I'd love to ask you how this process would come to be, but let me come to you first, to the Akoni. Some are saying we're moving towards a two-party system, the PDP and the APC. But in recent time, we've seen 5 PDP governors move from one party to the APC. We've seen APC chieftains move from AP. Do you still see any difference between these two major parties?
Well, yes, I think there are some differences. Otherwise, this move that you just alerted us to, that there is a plan to ensure that politicians will no longer be allowed to move from one party to another party, will not have taken root in the first place. And you begin to wonder whose interest is actually at stake with this kind of policy shift. So if politicians are no longer allowed to move from one party, to defer from one party to another party, so is that going to reduce corruption in the system? Is that going to make our system function better? Is that the primary concern of the electorate? It doesn't. I'm not sure the electorate are bothered, you know, about which party you belong to. Really, yes, they are. But when people defect, they probably have reasons to do so. When 5 governors defected from PDP to APC, they knew what they were doing. And don't forget that there's a very clear provision in the nation's constitution to the effect that there is provision for freedom of association. Now, if for now I feel I'm comfortable within the fold of APC as a party, why not? And if at some point I get fed up and I want to move to another party, why wouldn't I be able to move? The barrister just mentioned the fact that during the last general election, some people said they voted for President Jonathan as an individual and so on and so forth. So now that President Jonathan has taken advantage of that, he wants to now shut the door against some other potential beneficiaries. I mean, that's the way I see it. So, political party system provides for freedom of expression of beliefs. It enables you to stand up for what you believe in. You are able to speak out to say, yes, I am in favor of this, I'm in support of this, I want to do this, I want to do that, as different from this other side of the divide. So this idea of, I don't think is something that we should support. And it also runs contrary, you know, to the fundamental doctrine of democracy. People want to elect their own leaders, and then you are saying that because they had moved from one place to another, they cannot function as people's leaders again. I mean, Saraki moved from PDP to APC, and people still believe in him in Kwara as their leader. It hasn't changed anything. So I'm not in favor of that kind of ban, that kind of restriction, and I see it as pretty undemocratic.
Oh, barrister, do you see it as an infringement on anybody's human right here, being able to move freely from one party to the other?
I think it's it has a lot to do with semantics.
Okay.
We can't say it's a restriction on the right. It just might be whether it's politically expedient or tidy for people to stay put where they belong and to stay within the frameworks of certain political beliefs or ideology. So if people want to move from point to point, they would. But up until the time the people said, enough, we want you to define who you really are. Are you an alligator? Are you a lizard? Or are you a snake? People just want to know who you are. And tag will only apply to the political space when you begin to have that political socialization and then a new culture evolves. Like, for instance, in America, if you are a Democrat, you're a Democrat. If you're a liberal, you're a liberal. People just know. In the UK, if you're for the Labour Party, they know that this is a Labour Party person. The same thing in Israel. If you are a Dove, they know that you're a Dove. So those people practice this democracy over a period of time. We are just starting. That's why they talk about Nigeria as a nascent democracy. Now, if you look at the issue of fundamental right itself, it talks about freedom of movement. It didn't say freedom of movement within the political frame or framework. It talked about freedom of movement from place to place. I mean, decide to go to Borno State and become a resident there. That's what the Constitution envisages. It doesn't say people are bound to stay within the confines or move within certain political space, as the case may be. But people are free to really get to express themselves, to say, I don't like the way this party structure is because it doesn't fit the kind of ideology that I have, personal principles that I have. And this has led to several crises in the times past, from 1951 and all of that, where people were moving en masse. Now, when you have such issues, you come down and down and down and down. You have people moving for the sake of what they believe and what the party does not really project, how it creates conflict within their soul. So we cannot understand that. But even that, if you look at it, most of the movements are not actually based on principles. To be fair and candid, they're not really based. Some people just move because politics has become another career in Nigeria. And to be in the political wilderness for 4 years, you'll be asking for trouble. You need money, and then you know that simple economics says that expenses rises to meet income. So if the politician believes that he makes his money from politics and he has to stay with a political party in the name of ideology for a space of 4 years, you know that he's going to be declared a bankrupt. I just use the word guardedly here. Now, when you put all of these things together and then look at the fact that most of the Western analysts have called the black race people are given to primitive accumulation and conspicuous consumption.
Okay.
Now, if the politician had carried himself as a man of means and had been able to show class to some extent, you don't expect that he will now lower on that. He has already come to a position where he will not want to fall below. So if being in a party will make him to lose all of the political things he will have gotten, all of those advantages, he most likely will move from one party to the other.
But really, what does it tell of a politician's integrity? You know, when 1 minute you are talking ill of a party and their ideology, and the other minute, because possibly your interest was not favored in your own party, and then you move to the other party because that's what we've seen happen over time. What does it tell, in your own opinion today, of their character and integrity?
Well, the present generation of politicians that we have, some of them are principled, some others are not. Politicians cannot be the same everywhere, at all times. In the past years, we had people who are consistent. It was, it's unimaginable, for instance, for an Awolowo to come out to say he was defecting to another party. No, he won't do that, because it was part of the cultivation, of the ideas of the party. He identified. Not only was it part of the cultivation, he also breathed life into the vision of the party, and the identity of the party was almost his own identity, to that extent. But what kind of politicians do we have today? Are they really even describable as politicians as such? They are probably sheer flirts. I can't imagine a Ribadu, making a success, making a career, a successful career in politics. Yesterday was after politicians accusing them of all manner of corrupt practices, labeling this and that, and now he's in the same group, with the same set of people that he had accused of several misdemeanors. So, do you call that character a politician, or somebody who is, or just a hungry fellow, just looking for where to scavenge for food, for what he will eat? I think he's broke, and he needs to, keep afloat. And a number of these guys who want to impress us as politicians are just like that, just another set of Ribadus in town. That's the character of the politician that has come to dominate the political scene in Nigeria. So, but at the leadership level, maybe a few of them, but not many of them really are you know, reliable. If you look at APC, for instance, there are certain politicians you know that come rain, come shine, they will remain within APC. In PDP, yes, PDP most PDP people would want to tell you that yes, this is a fully democratic party. But the situation, the kind of situation we have that prevails, you know, in PDP is such that even at the level of the leadership, there are not many politicians that are reliable that you can say that can be said to be consistent with whatever is perceived as the philosophy of the party. So I tend to agree with him that most of our politicians really are not such that have come to identify with a particular political philosophy and say, come rain, come shine, this is where I am, this is where you always find me. It's rather unfortunate that most of the people you find out there are you know, flirts who call themselves politicians.
It's all right. Let's begin to look at the involvement of electorates in all of this. You know, some years ago, incumbents don't lose elections in Nigeria. But, you know, in recent times, we've seen, of course, recently in the Ekiti State, we saw an incumbent governor that you know, possibly some people thought was doing well. And then the people of the state said, via their votes, you know, by voting for another candidate in all the 16 local governments in that area. What would you say that portends for forthcoming elections in Nigeria?
Yes, I think like we had earlier said, it all has to do with psychology. The average man, for instance, and the voter, the mob actually constitute those that put people in office, where free and fair election is the norm. And if you take a man's means of livelihood, if you destroy his shop in a bid to construct, no matter how wonderful what you're doing is, and you do it to not just one person, two persons, and what you have is a chain reaction, because, like they say, one customer that you have can influence 9 others, and that 9 others has a cycle of influence, and it could be 9, and those 9, amongst those 9, they also have. So it goes round and round. Now what happens is that they build a common consensus, and they say, look, we don't want this man, so we are going to wait for him at the time of his election. And you will discover that what the president did, or has been doing, is he will bring all of the military men, all the service security operatives, and will make sure that nobody reads. If you win, he will congratulate you. If you lose, he will tell you to learn from them, that this is the big family, the PDP. And I find that quite novel. If it will continue, then there is hope for Nigeria. Yes. And when you have the mob coming to decide and say, you took my Okada, or you harassed me on the way, you do this, you do that, it's going to impact when the election comes. It normally would. And when you have, sometimes it could spill over into other states. It happened in this state, but it could spill over to another state. So I think that was the reason why the man lost. Not that he was not performing. In fact, I've been to Mowe, and I was shocked at the level of development that was going on in Mowe. Mowe is Ogun State. And I've never really, I don't have anything against the APC. Neither was I in the PDP. I was just a neutral person. But because of the level of rancor that has been ongoing, I just said, what type of party will be making so much noise? This one goes out, you scream. It comes back, you scream. You don't do that, you understand? I've not mentioned the party now. But by and large, after a point in time, I started saying, why is this party like this? But when I went to Ogun State, I said, wow, this is good. The road that was neglected by a PDP government is now being taken over by an APC governor, and it's so excellently, although they're about to tie it, but you could see that there's hope. And what you have is that the properties there will appreciate. You have commerce will come. A lot of things will happen. Now, in spite of the development, let's assume that the governor trying to do that damage a whole lot of stuff. We might applaud what he has done, but the man who feels the pain will not forget, and he will say, okay, I'll wait for you guys during the election time. And when you have such people in the majority, they're not going to be looking at ideas. They'll say, okay, we know you planted flowers. We know you did flyovers. But right now, what we're interested in is our stomach.
Tunde doesn't seem to agree with you as regards that. There seems to be a debate now ongoing between which one is more basic infrastructure, between stomach and the road infrastructure. But he made a point talking about the ongoing electoral reforms, the fact that Mr. President ensures that elections are not rigged and the true intention and the will of the people comes to bear in the results. Do you agree with him on that?
No. I take a very strong exception to that remark.
That was my observation.
Yeah, to that your remark, because I see it as a remark. Election was to be held in the states, and you mobilize as many as, over 70 troops to that state alone. Yet we had that challenge of bringing back our girls from Chibok. I mean, from wherever they had been taken to from Chibok. Till date, there are no satisfactory updates on whatever is happening to those girls. Election was to be held in Ekiti. It took over 70,000 soldiers there. And not only did you mobilize that quantum of troops, you also ensured that all the leaders of the other party, APC, got arrested before election could commence. Not one of your own party, the PDP, was taken into custody. Where is the fairness there? Where is the clear intention to guarantee peace for the sake of the election? Rather, what we had in Ekiti was a deployment of army of occupation to Ekiti to intimidate the electorate so that they will know, now having taken your leaders, it's up to you to get our signal that anything could also befall you. And when you look at it, you try to weigh the options. So why do I need to stick my neck out? In any case, if they want to appropriate all the votes to themselves, they can do it. And that's probably what happened. And now they declare their candidate.
Well, the same thing happened in Osho and APC won.
Yeah, the same thing happened in Osho and APC won. But don't forget that the Osho people had the advantage of Ekiti happening before Osho. So they had, Osho people probably had taken their time to study the situation in Ekiti. So if these people did this in Ekiti, then we'll be ready for them in Osho. And don't forget that apart from the fact that the electorate were actually ready to stand up to this army of occupation in Osho, they also made sure that whatever you have come to do, we are up to the task. Number one, well, notwithstanding the fact that people stood up, don't forget the fact that several of the leaders, no fewer than 200 of the APC leaders were arrested. We read reports of how several gunshots were fired right within the compound of the former governor of the state, who is also a member of APC, Adeleke. We read reports of how thugs mobilized and even uniform security men shot sporadically into the residence of Senator Ayosalami, another leading member of APC in that state. And no fewer than 200 of them were arrested. Don't forget the report of the arrest of Lai Mohammed, Sunday Dari, and Shaib Salis, Deputy Chief of Staff of the Ogun State Governor, Amosun. And now Lai Mohammed came out later to say that it was only God that saved them, that they actually pointed guns at his, to his head, saying that, look, if you don't take care, you could be gone in a moment. How will you argue with somebody who is holding a gun, except you are mad?
Oh, well, PDP
so what we are saying is that this manner of deploying troops to go ascertain, Nigerians are no rogues. Nigerians are no rogues, and we really can be appreciative. In fact, we can be over appreciative of good governance. Election has been scheduled. All proper arrangements have been made. There are police stations, regular police stations. All right, because an election is coming up, we are not saying that it's not necessary to reinforce the security forces within the concerned environment. But we are not clearly a situation in which you mobilize as many as 70,000 troops to a state. Well, we are talking of soldiers. We are not talking of policemen. Policemen will do this job better, not soldiers. And in the case of Osun, the situation almost went worse. We had a situation in which soldiers were wearing hoods. You couldn't look at, you won't get to see their faces. So that once, after committing whatever crime, they could escape. So, meaning that government, the military, security forces were not ready to be accountable for whatever they did. And all the reports that we had, of course, clearly showed that these forces were more on the side of PDP than the people whose tax is being used to fund them, ironically.
The Osun PDP gubernatorial candidate is in court alleging rigging, ballot stuffing, and the rest. Do you think the verdict of this court will finally put to rest, all this apprehension as regards the integrity of the presence of military during elections?
It might. I'm not going to preempt the court, but I'll just let them do their task, let the evidence be adduced. It's one thing to allege, it's another one to prove. So, but it might, like I said. I'm not going to stick out my neck and say it's
Well, how would you react to it? I mean, the PDP, the federal government came into Osun with over 70,000 security operatives. Does it not strike a chord in you that the PDP candidate is alleging election rigging under such atmosphere? Does that not, in and of itself, nullifies bringing military for elections?
It doesn't nullify. If you know the kind of people we are and the way our politicians harangue and angle jostle for power, the case might be, you'll understand why you need security. There are there have been pockets of violence where party talks, party A talks and party B talks clashed. In fact, I've seen at least one instance. It was frightening. People had to scamper off. Now, if you bring the army on that day, provided the army does not do anything other than standing around the venue to ensure that no mischief is practiced, then. But I don't see how, under such a situation, somebody will say there was rigging. Except the people that rigged overpowered the army, which is not possible, because we know, okay, in the case of Edo, the party that is presently enjoying the office. You know, before the election, they were screaming, rigging, oh, rigging, rigging, rigging. Eventually, what happened? The party still won. And nobody, the party did not go to court to say, well, it appears the rigging was in my favor. The party enjoyed the fruit of that election. You also have in Osun State. In fact, there was so much of a, if this thing goes this other way, there is going to be cataclysm. Everywhere is going to, you understand, the party won. And the party has not gone to court to say, why did you bring in so much military?
Of course,
You know,
no. I'm sure they're going to court to, as regards.
The same party that won.
No, actually, if you
to
have been
court.
following the reports, people have been going to court.
Okay.
Because,
For several reasons.
Yeah, for reasons of being, illegally arrested and being detained.
Okay.
And the Attorney General of the state was arrested shortly before on the eve of the election. Was arrested, was actually beaten up and detained. Now I think he's in court. Some other leaders of APC who are arrested in similar circumstances, a number of them, are now filing cases in courts, saying that, look, what we experienced was not normal. And as citizens of Nigeria who believe in the rule of law, we are out to insist on our legal entitlement. So they're in courts. I've been following the reports.
Okay.
So let's not say that they are not complaining because they won. No, they're complaining.
Okay. At least they're not complaining that they won.
No, they couldn't have complained.
Under the circumstances.
No, but
that's what I'm trying to highlight. Not the individual, the problem of violation of individual rights, but at least that election that we got it. This party won the governorship election. No, but that party is not contesting that in spite of all of these circumstances.
Not contesting the credibility of the election.
Yes, we take that, but we are going to prod you on this other aspect. That why did you give me a slap on that day? Why did you? But the party itself has not said, we reject this victory. Let's go, because you brought in
so right.
the military and all
Let's
of
take
that.
this discussion to another level. Well, we're counting down to 2015. Given of course, it looks like both of you agree on the fact that our parties do not really have distinct ideologies, and that is largely responsible for why people can change political parties like that, changing clothes. Who should Nigerians vote for? What should Nigerians vote for? Parties or candidates?
Well, in the present circumstance, how much option do we have? If we say candidates, it may not be a bad idea, but there are a number of good individuals in Nigeria who, but what does the Constitution say? We don't have a situation where independent candidates can stand the election yet. So, because the Constitution does not provide for that, that is completely out of question, So, inevitably, parties are what we will need to vote for. Now, if we look at the parties, we attempt a kind of broad comparison. I won't hesitate to say that APC has done very much better. And I'm going to substantiate this claim. Look at Osun. In fact, the situation is even such that Osun is doing so well that some other APC states by now should be working on the possibility of doing what Osun is already doing. What are those things? Primary school pupils are being fed, they are being clothed, free supply of uniforms to primary school pupils, and to secondary school pupils. Primary school pupils are being fed daily. At least you take a meal in school. For the first time in the history of this country, is that kind of a thing happening. Now, for the first time, in the recent time, a governor assumed his position as the governor of a state, and he said, having promised that we are going to hire 20,000 graduates immediately, And the man never went back on his words. He didn't renege.
We're
And
privy
he
to
hired
that information because we had the Commissioner of Information, from that state on our set just recently. But,
so I'm saying that,
today,
and Osun doesn't have the kind of resources that some other states have.
except that APC has not been able to run a transparent primary election like the PDP. We saw in 2011 on a national TV set the primary election.
But
the
can I just say something? Can I
from
just
the
say
public
something?
has been
let me tell you.
that of lauding candidates over. How do you react to that?
You see, let me tell you. I want to subscribe to transparent.
Bear in mind that
democratic.
Tommy Kimi just left the APC for the same.
Yeah.
What's the letter that Tommy Kimi wrote?
What's the antecedent of
bogus.
Ikimi? Ikimi was a spokesperson for the Abacha, for the discredited Abacha government.
But he was a chieftain of the APC.
Oh yes, and he has left. Now he's left. But what I'm trying to say is this: democracy. My colleague just said that the democracy we have in Nigeria is a nascent one, so it's still evolving. So what it then means is that things can only get better. If people who are lauding candidates, if a party, will not allow what you call transparent primaries to happen, they probably have their reasons. You understand? And you also need to look at the end of the day, did the end justify the means? Whatever the situation was, whatever the process looked like, that same process produced Aregbesola in Osun. And Aregbesola, by all standards, is doing excellently well. This is the governor feeding school pupils with the lean income that it's been earning since for several years. Now, so that process produced an Aregbesola. That same process produced an Amosun that my colleague just commended. He said he was in Mowe. And if you were in Mowe and you saw the situation in Mowe and you were impressed, please go to Abeokuta.
Are you saying that the product justifies the undemocratic process?
I'm saying that, look, things can only get better. If it was possible for the party to impose candidates in the years past, I can assure you that for the next general election, it won't be like that.
It already happened at the level of the APC.
No, I'm saying that, look, let me tell you, so what it then means is that party is running the risk of losing members to some other parties.
It's all right. Let's quickly have your contribution, Barrister. Candidates or parties, who should people vote for in 2015?
If it all depends on the people. You cannot force the people to take your ideology or what you feel.
But what's your own opinion?
For me personally, I think they should...
Sounds like a hard decision.
Very hard, very hard. I think they should still go with the normal flow.
What's the normal flow?
When you vote, they say, okay, we are voting individuals. You know, the problem with the Nigerian, I found out that Nigerians have this bandwagon mentality. If something is in vogue, this thing is in vogue, all of them will buy this thing until they get tired of buying it. Have you observed? A particular car can just start trending and everybody wants to drive that car. As soon as they get tired, they just leave it. It's the same thing. Once you come to who should we vote and they say we are not voting for party, we are voting the individual, you can't stop them. And perhaps that's the more reason why APC brings a particular candidate. Because they feel by doing so, they'll be able to put before the people a credible candidate. On the other side, people could say, well, we don't like this party A, we want to vote party B. You understand? And those people might be few, but what about the mob? When you talk about democracy, you're also talking about mobocracy. If you go to America, the mob don't vote. You have the electoral college. After a point in time, when you finish voting your own, there are people who sit down and say, look, based on the criteria we see, this man will be able to defend us. We are supposed to be number one, no, we're supposed to be number one in the world. And so they will come up with the right candidate that fits their situation. It's just the same thing. I'm sure it's practiced in most of the countries, maybe up to Israel, because of the peculiar circumstances they have around them and all of that. But in Nigeria, once you cast your vote, they will count everything. So the man on the street may not know the right candidate. He may just like the person's face. He may just like the way he smiles. And that's the Nigerian for you. And they will go massively and vote that person. So what I'm thinking is, until the parties have really evolved and come to a point where they have concrete ideologies, not watered down ideologies that you crisscross each. You see this same thing in this party A, you see it in party B, party C, and all of that. There should be something they are standing for. Just like when you have the conservatives, you have the liberals, you have the Democrats, you have the Republicans. There should be something that defines what this political party is for. And then people don't just jump from one party A, because the more people jump from party A to party B and party C to party, eventually we'll see no difference amongst them. So we'll all go back again to voting individuals.
Does it not strike you that looks like PDP is more united when it comes to the 2015 general elections? Just one presidential candidate is visible for now. Many are already saying that possibly the APC voters should drive careful, because when it gets to now deciding who takes that presidential, they might split up. Do you see that happening?
Politics, what I know is that ultimately the elders in that party will also ensure that they're able to manage their act.
Because the 5 PDP governors that came the other time possibly came for a presidential purpose.
Well, but no one was sure of that. It's just that they were fed up with the situation in PDP and they moved over to APC.
Right.
Now, if you moved over from one party to another party, I think no matter what your ambition is, you want to ensure that the new camp to which you have moved stabilizes, irrespective of whatever your personal ambition. Yes, I read, I think just yesterday, that Kokanso has declared his presidential ambition. I mean, we are fully aware that Buhari wants to be president, and so on and so forth.
You have a lot of that.
Yes, but
all
that is
in the
healthy.
APC vote.
Yes.
All in the APC votes.
Yes, but that is healthy.
How
really.
do you see the APC vote surviving?
No, excuse me, but that is healthy. In fact, that is a very good manifestation of democratic tradition. So what it then means is that we look forward to them managing this this tumultuous situation. Buhari was former military head of state. I don't see him being too desperate. Yes, he's very strong on his ambition, and he deserves whatever he wants for himself. Kwakwanso is running his second time in the office as a governor. If he feels he's capable of aspiring to the office of the presidency, so be it, and so on and so forth. It's actually good for the country that we have this many candidates that are qualified to occupy the position. Don't forget that, I mean, if you go out to conduct opinion poll on the reputation of our president, you'll be shocked.
Well, let me put it on the spot. Which of these APC candidates do you think can match Mr. President in popularity?
What popularity are you talking about? When we are talking about diminishing popularity, diminishing reputation,
whatever.
It's just, excuse me, the president of Nigeria has always been described as about the most powerful president in the world because of virtually limitless powers. You know, he allocates this, allocates that, dispenses favors arbitrarily, and so on and so forth. The minister is not doing well because he's corrupt. He has amassed so much wealth. If our president is not disposed to get him out of
You didn't answer
office,
my question. Which of them do you think can match the president?
You are probably confused. I mean, sorry, I'm using this word because you don't see any of these candidates in a position in which they can dispense favors like the sitting president can do. But once the party makes up its mind and say, this is our candidate, then you see.
It's all right. Let me guess that I understand you. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for finding time to join us today. Ufi Uzono is a legal practitioner, and we really appreciate your presence. Today, Akoni, a public affairs analyst. In the course of the discussion, I think I noticed that both of you have a very interesting political divide. But thank you very much for gracing the show today. We saw a very interesting primary election between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. I mean, that election was so televised, and it looks as if just two of them were contesting for the presidential seat of the United States. We hope that political parties in Nigeria can also learn the lessons from that and make their primary elections, visible to Nigerians, more transparent. And maybe via that, we can understand who these candidates are and genuinely vote for them. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Cold Digest continues tomorrow. Join us again.
Nigerians continue to
Tonight, the city of Lagos waits and dark as all routes.
to you on
Be the first to know.
Core TV News.
From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News,
Welcome to Core
a
TV.
24-hour news station.